Episode 229 of the Bevan James Eyles Show, an interview with Martine Matapo. Radio team, welcome along to episode 229 of the Bevan James Eyles Show, your fortnightly podcast on the behaviours that create a lifetime love of fitness, so you can get all the benefits that come alongside it. You know what? I'm not going to talk much today because I've got a really cool interview with a lovely young lady by the name of Martine Matapo. Martine is a very, very successful young woman in the fitness industry. She's kind of shot up the ranks of Les Mills and has done very well, is kind of presenting in the biggest kind of stage. She's a very highly qualified fitness professional. She's an educator, but also she's just this really awesome person. And she's just, you know, sometimes in life, some people just have this really cool energy about them, and there's a real happy disposition in what they give to the world. And Martine is definitely that. And so I'm up in Auckland right now doing some work for Les Mills, and we're kind of roomies, well, not roomies, she's a couple of rooms down from me. And I thought, you know what, she's the kind of person I'd love to get on the show. So she came around last night, we kind of got the mics out, and we just have a conversation. And you know what it's like with me, I kind of just throw random questions at people, and there's obviously a fitness angle to it, but there's also just a good honesty. She's really honest, which I really like, and some really cool insight. And it's one of those interviews where you're going to listen, and I imagine you'll find it quite self-reflective in the stuff we talk about. So so I'm going to pretty much get straight into it. But before I do, I want to say a big thank you to all the patrons of the show. The patrons of the show are people who financially support the show, and each time I release an episode, they just donate a little bit of hard-earned money my way. And I just want to say, also, when you become a patron, you get a cool Bevan James Eyles Show nickname. I don't know if it's cool or not, but I'm going to say it's cool. And these are some of the people who are patrons. We've got Luke Mayhem Miller. We've got Pip, the Silent Assassin in Langford. We've got Kate, the Perfect One Southern. We've got Robbie, Big Shot Allen, and Gemma and Glenn, Team Divine Mitchell. These are all people who support the podcast. So again, if you want to support the podcast, go to bevanjameseyles.com, my website. Click on podcast, click on support me, go through the process. And what happens is each time I release an episode, you just donate a little bit of your hard-earned money my way. Anyway, let's get straight into the interview with Martine. Here she is right now. Rightio team, welcome along to Martine Matapo. I've just asked her how to say her name. She gave me the rundown. How you going?
Good, how are you, Bevan?
So I suppose a good place to start is what got you into fitness?
Oh, I guess you just start kind of like most people do. I was really sporty growing up. My mum was super sporty, and she played like rugby and basketball and netball and softball, and so we would always be hanging out at practices and trainings. And I think from a young age we always played sport. And then I think I joined like my first gym when I was like 15, and I just used to go on like the cross trainer because I didn't know how to use anything, and I used to just go on the treadmill and walk for like 30 minutes, and you know when you're awkwardly staring around at everyone being like, what are they doing? And then that kind of led into Les Mills when I was like 17.
So you're teaching that young?
Yeah, started when I was 17, and was kind of shoulder tapped, you know, the old tap of the shoulder. It's just gone by so fast, as you probably know.
When you're a high level athlete, what kind of, when you say like you played sport, what kind of level did you? Were you good, like, where were you at with your athletes?
I think at the time I thought I was really good, but looking back, I probably wasn't. Like I played in kind of like A teams and did a bit of like Otago stuff, but it wasn't like super high level, you know, like just used to do kind of normal trainings, and I remember always coming home really late, but it was always really fun. You know, I never really looked at it as like it was really tough or like it was a chore. It was just always really fun, and Mum was always there kind of cheering me on. And what, you know,
because one of the things I often get is how do we help kids love exercise? And obviously you were brought up in an environment where that was the case, and you're reflective of that. What were the keys for you? What was fun? What made exercise fun at that moment in your life?
I think it was just such a family thing, you know, from such a young age. Me and my cousins were always outside playing, and we kind of were always all together, and, you know, Mum was always getting us to play. And so it was almost reflecting now, it's almost like that play side. You know, we're here to have fun, and you know, it doesn't need to be like a formal sport or anything. But yeah, I think that was really key, was that it was always fun and we were there together doing it. It was like a togetherness kind of thing.
So is that kind of connection,
yeah,
enjoyment, and role modelling?
Yeah. I think that was really, really key.
And your mum's still very active now?
Yeah, she actually got a cancer diagnosis 5 years ago, and that kind of slowed her down a bit. But she used to run and do marathons, and you know, right up until she was diagnosed. But it definitely pushed her back a bit. But she's really cute. She's doing like little workouts at her local gym, and but yeah.
Have you talked much to her about this? Like, you know, because like, you know, you and I, I'm 20 years up the road from you, but this is who we are, you know, and your mum would have been the same, you know, like exercise is a big part of her identity, and then you have this pretty horrific life thing you go through, and obviously it's in a good place. So it's really positive, but then you're limited in how you can do the thing that you're really passionate about. How did you work through that?
I think it was really challenging for her, and we've talked about it a lot, and I think, as you say, it's an identity thing. You know, her whole, you know, being was shifted. You know, she couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do the normal things, like, you know, even go for a shower and things like that was just super tough. And so, yeah, I think it was really trying to grab onto like those little things during the day that were really enjoyable, and knowing that we could kind of build her up and keep her going, and that it was a new phase now, you know, and it was kind of getting around to that acceptance that I've had this amazing life of running and sports and doing, you know, everything I wanted to do, and now I'm kind of moving into this next chapter. And
where does exercise sit in her life now?
I think she goes up and down, but for the moment she's been really, really enjoying it. And I think because her body's changed so much as well, and her abilities, and, you know, I think sometimes, you know, we would be doing things and she kind of thinks she's still in her like 30-year-old body and, you know, doing the marathons. And I have to be like, Mum, chill, you know. But yeah, now she's doing like little strength training workouts, and she's going for big walks, and so she's doing awesome.
So she's still got the prioritization of it. It's just how she's doing it's kind of different now. It's gonna be a hard thing to, because I just think of myself, like I'm mid-40s now, and I have no slowdown yet. I can't jump as high, like in plyometric stuff, you know, like if I remember teaching with George, and he had a jump that I could no longer get to. So there's definitely aspects of aging where I'm like, okay, well, that's no longer there. But I haven't had that big, like, okay, now there's a massive shift, you know, like a lot of people, their knees will go and stuff like that, and I've been very lucky in that way. And it'll just be really interesting to see, you know, because you have to accept it, don't you? It's, you know, at a certain point. How do you think you'd go? I think now I'm okay with it. I think, like, at your age, it would have been a disaster. Because I was just too... My identity was just so much fitness. You know, and I think one thing I've done well is to develop... a multi-dimensional esteemed person. You know what I mean? So I have music, I have business, I have family, friends, still have exercise. But I'm, you know, the early version of me, all I had was exercise. And so I'll still move no matter what. How I move and how much I move may reduce as I age, but I'm not so dependent on the movement for the sense of esteem. Because
you went through... like your back and
and to be honest, and I've talked about this on the show, but the thing with the back was I didn't actually, and it was really interesting because Joe was saying, people would say to my wife Jo, people would say to her, they'd go, how's Bevan going? And she'd go, no, he's actually doing really good. And I go, no, but really, you know,
it's the head tilt and the eyebrows.
Really. But I didn't find it hard at all. And I think that's because I'm that multi-dimensional esteemed person now, and that I actually could act wisely through that time, because most people in our industry, when we get injured, often do foolish things, you know, because we don't want to stop. And so I actually was able to act wisely because my esteem wasn't reliant on it, you know, and it's something we need to be careful of in our game, because we, particularly in the Les Mills game, we become this brings so much to our life, but it also can be a bit too dominant, you know, and most of us go through it, but it's just making sure you do get to the other side and develop those other sides. More importantly, you. So you start teaching at 17. So what's that like? Because that's quite a massive thing, because suddenly you're in quite a big leadership role. And so what was it like when you first started standing in front of people teaching exercise?
I think it's funny because as a kid, I wanted to be lots of things when I was a kid, but I also really wanted to be an actress.
Oh, wow.
And so like I used to love public speaking. And
so you're naturally quite good at that stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And, I remember I used to perform like little skits for my mum and my sister. And so, yeah, I think it just felt really natural to me. It was just like it's not like that it was easy, but it just felt like, yeah, I'm in my space.
And what gave you that? Because like we think of public speaking is that, what I say is people would rather die than public speak, it's the most fearful thing, and so what gave you the ability to be comfortable in that space, even at such a young age?
I'm not sure. I think, mum, I'm always talking about my mum at the moment, but she got me into kind of drama lessons when I was a kid. I went to acting school.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I think a lot from her was like she just wanted me to be, as confident and as knowledgeable, as I could be.
Yeah.
And she, wanted me to try lots of different things and, that sort of stuff just really stuck. Like I was really young, but probably 7 or 8 when I was doing acting classes.
Oh, wow.
And I used to be in plays from around the Otago area.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of it was just when I was young, I just tried a lot of it.
Okay. So your mum put you in life experiences which allowed you to develop skills and confidence in certain areas.
Yeah, and I used to love like getting reactions from people when I saw if I did something, if I was doing like a little skit or I was telling a funny joke, people would laugh and I'd be like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Okay.
I'm engaging and I'm connecting. And
so it became an appealing place to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So then when you start getting on stage teaching, it was always a bit of a natural place for you already?
Yeah, yeah. I felt like, this is me. I'm on stage and I'm connecting with people and I can see you, and then I'd get off the stage and we'd be, talking about their lives, and that's the part I love the most. And even coming up for filming, the one thing I love is, people showing me photos of their family or, their babies that they've just had and their new house, and, I just brought this and it's super cool and I went for it, I love that.
How did your self-perception change at that time? Because, like from my experience I was total opposite to you. So I was like going nowhere in life, and then found this and got on stage, and it was just such a massive shift in my life. Whereas you were already quite comfortable in those positions. So was there a shift in self-perception through that role that came within yourself?
Yeah, I think I just realised, how important exercise and kind of this role can be in other people's lives.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, I was like, oh, it's all about me. I'm on stage and I'm acting and performing and this is super fun. And then I was like, oh, there's actually more to this, actually, and people would tell me stories and go, oh, I've just had the worst week and I've come to this class and it's just made me feel amazing. And so you kind of start to think, oh, this is actually a bigger picture than just me, when you're 18 and figuring out life.
Yeah, so you're starting to understand how you actually are influencing others in really positive ways.
Yeah, I guess you kind of realise that leadership role or that role modelling, and you have these members and then you also have kind of other instructors coming up, and so you kind of zoom out a bit and go, this is kind of cool in a better way than I thought it would be.
And did that not in a pressure way, but did it kind of make it bigger? Like for me, I had similar experience. I remember kind of one day I woke up and I realised I was a Pied Piper. You know what I mean? Like, like we're the kind of people who are Pied Pipers.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of thing, and I have influence.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well then how are you going to use that?
Yeah.
Did you have a similar kind of experience around that?
Yeah, I think still kind of going through that, especially with social media, and like you've talked a lot about it on the show, but I think I just try and think, who am I authentically, and I'm just more of a people in person kind of person, but totally understand social media engagement and stuff, but I'm just not on there all the time. But I guess to answer your question, it does just kind of give you a different perspective on how where you might sit in terms of the role and the leadership in Les Mills space, I guess.
It's interesting actually as you talk about social media. It's interesting that because we do portray something to the world, don't we? But in social media, it's quite a conscious choice of how do I want to portray myself.
Yeah.
You know, like it is. Yeah, it's such a. So how do you handle it? Because obviously, but you're of a younger generation.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty crap on it. I kind of chuck some stuff occasionally, you know.
Yeah.
But and I try a little bit, but I don't really try. How do you approach it? Because you know we're in a game where image is often sold on social media like crazy. So what are you trying to do with your influence in that world?
I think I'm still trying to figure it out. But like I think, you know, in the past few years I've been going through just trial and error of what, you know, if I post something and did that feel authentic, or is that really what I wanted to say, or have I got an agenda here? Am I trying to impress others, or am I trying to wear a certain brand, or, you know, say a certain message? So now it's very, you know, this, Martine, is this something you would post? You know, is this what you're truly feeling? And if it is, then fire away. If it's not, then it's probably going to feel a bit clunky once you've posted it and you're going, oh, was that the right thing to say?
I heard an interesting book the other day, and they're talking about it was just about materialism, and it was like, if no one could know you bought it, would you still buy it? You know, and it's you know, and I know social media isn't that, because most social media is showing, but the kind of, is this true to who I really am? That's kind of what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. And then there's also like another side of kind of detaching from that. Yeah. Just going, it is just a platform of photos and you know, why do we think so deeply about it? Yeah. But yeah, it's a strange one.
Who are you? Is a deep question. But like when you think about, I go back to Martine and what would be important to her, what are the words that come up?
I think definitely people, you know, my family, you know, fitness is a big one, but definitely around those key pillars of people and family and connecting. That's definitely me. You know, I love to have a good laugh and good conversations and checking in with people. What's new in life? You know, what are you doing that's outside of work? And you know, I love that sort of stuff. So
like real connection.
Yeah.
Do you find one thing that's hard in our game is, because we are the people connector and we are a leader, sometimes there needs to be boundaries. Yeah. How do you find that? And do you, like, you know, do you manage that well?
Yeah.
Because I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was going out for partner, and someone at the gym came up to me in a way that was needy, but I provided as much as I could in that situation, but I didn't offer more. And my partner was quite critical of me. And I remember my manager at the time was quite an important person in my life. And he said, you don't understand that Bevan gets this 10 times a day. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so he can't actually always provide more to everyone. You know, like you've got to choose your levels with different people. And is that something you face? And if so, how do you manage that?
I've definitely felt that, you know, like just in the gym space, if, you know, like I'm training or I'm trying to do something and then people are constantly trying to come up and say hello, which obviously I love, but, you know, you kind of have to be like, okay, I'm training now. Or I've actually been like, okay, I'm going to find another place that's actually my training space. Okay, nice. And then Les Mills is kind of my work, my workplace. And this is where, you know, I work. And when I'm there, I'm talking to people and I'm very hello. And then when I'm, you know, doing my training, it's somewhere else. So I definitely
So it's about
feel
creating
that.
some spaces for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's how my brain naturally goes. So I can kind of have, okay, this place is for me now. This is my time, and then this is kind of work and focusing on group fit or PT if I'm in that role. But as well on social media as well, like people will be messaging you all the time saying like just the weirdest things, but also things like, you know, where did you get that outfit from? Like, what shoes are those? Or so that's funny as well, but normally you just go, oh, delete that one.
don't ask her for a shoes. It's amazing. It's a funny time, isn't it? Because time is kind of like your greatest asset. You know, it really, really is when you think about it. And it's amazing how quickly you can give it away. And again, there's, you know, because it's like, if someone's asking about your shoes, well, they probably just go to a website. You know, like it is, you know, and you feel that kind of obligation to somebody, don't you? Yeah. Hey, when you're working, like you've become an educator, how are you finding that? Well, tell us about it first of all.
So I'm a tutor at the New Zealand Institute of Sport, which runs a whole bunch of diplomas and qualifications in kind of sport, recreation and exercise. So there are some personal training qualifications in there as well. But I primarily look after what's called a level 4 study and career preparation qualification. So it's kind of for people who aren't really sure what they want to do and are kind of just wanting to find some skills around studying, probably working in industry or getting exposure to exercise. Yeah. And as well, it's kind of a bridge to personal training. Okay. And then I kind of teach in some other areas as well. But it's definitely been challenging being on the other side, you know, because I've been through education. I did a degree and then masters on that, and so it's different being on the other side. Yeah.
So when you were in your study, what made you successful?
I think firstly, I did something I loved. Okay. So I think that was really key.
So it was never a chore?
No, and I left school and all of my friends were doing law or they were doing, some finance or something. And so I was like, I'm going to do law. Yeah. So I did first year law. So
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. I spent all my time at the gym. I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. And so I just felt like I was split in half, you know, because I love writing, I love reading, and I love public speaking. I was like, law's going to be great. This is me.
Okay. So in some ways, it looked like it could tick boxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then I did it, and I was like, it's okay. I'm just not really feeling like a bit of a spark here. Like it's really interesting, and I loved all the readings, and I was, super nerdy with it. But I think I actually want something different. Yeah. So yeah, I did a PE degree and then masters on that. But I think the key was really choosing the one that I loved and not really sticking with something that I felt, it's not really me.
And was it hard to walk away from law, or was it actually pretty obvious?
It was pretty obvious to me, but it was hard because I naturally set such a high bar, and I'm going, if I'm going to start something, I'm going to finish it. Okay. But in yourself, that's not right. And so I just diverted and
And so now that you're on the other side, because it's interesting, it seems like you were pretty motivated as a student.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously probably did pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly like it's that thing of not everyone has what you have. You know what I mean? Like, suddenly you go into a world where maybe not everyone is so motivated and all that stuff. So what are the challenges you find being an educator in trying to help people who are trying to progress forward?
I think from my brief experience so far is people's just backing themselves, I think, is a lot of it. And there's so much change when you can see in their eyes and they're going, you actually back me as a teacher, and it's amazing how little encouragement students need to go, really? I can do this. And so I think a lot of it is really backing yourself and going, I can do this. I have the tools. I can ask questions. Someone's here to support me. I can rely on them. So, yeah, that's a big one, I reckon.
So ultimately you feel it's ultimately a bit of a lack of self-confidence, really? Mm-hmm. And so they limit themselves. Yep. And they're going to make it harder for that reason. Actually, interesting. I was talking to this lady the other day. The lady I know is a lovely lady called Paula, and she's in her 50s, and she's become passionate about learning Spanish. And started 2 years ago and is all in, and killing it, just became a new life passion and killing it. And we were talking because she wants to do exams. So she's kind of gone with tutors and gone through apps and kind of books and stuff and learned a lot along the way. So she's progressed really well, but she hasn't done any kind of formal study with it. And she kind of decided that she wanted to go through some formal education. And in doing it, she's got to do some exams. Now, she didn't do well at school. And interestingly, her story was that when she was at high school, when she was at intermediate, which is, for those overseas, is kind of when you're 12 before you go to high school. She was a really high level student, and because she did so well, she got sent to a high level high school. But when she went to the high school, she felt like she was the thickest in the class. Right. And so it's that comparison thing. She went into the class, and then suddenly she's in this place where she's the lowest of the rung, and then which led to her actually not doing well at school at all, and she failed exams, and now 30 years later, she's now in a place where she has to do exams again, and she's got all this kind of scarring from when she was younger, and we're just having this really interesting discussion around you're not that person anymore. Yeah. But what was really interesting was that when she went to we kind of figured out what the problem was, and the problem was when she went to high school, because she felt like she was the least intelligent or one of the lower intelligence in the
Mm-hmm.
group, she actually didn't study anymore.
Yeah.
She stopped studying for exams.
Mm-hmm.
And so her actions led to failure,
Yeah.
and which
Yeah.
reinforced the belief that she was one of the lesser people.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's like a loop.
yeah, it really was.
Mm.
And because she was actually really intelligent if she just gone to a normal high school,
Yeah.
and she probably would have studied. But because she felt like she was thick, she stopped studying, which then she failed, which she told herself, I can never be good at exams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was just and so what we talked about was, well, actually, you'll study, she's going to kill these exams. She's going to be great. But the real lesson is the debilitation of the esteem
yeah.
stopped actions that helped you progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I imagine maybe that's something you face.
Yeah. And it's just crazy how much our beliefs
Limit action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. So it's really cool being there for them, and because I've only got about 10 students, so it's
nice.
really
So it's intimate.
Yeah, it's really intimate, and I know them really well. And so it's kind of seeing them growing, and they're almost, when you're walking away from someone, you kind of look back, like, are they still there? You know, and they're checking, is she still there? Is she still gonna be there for me?
So there's a trust of nurturing.
Yeah. And I think, obviously people learn in different environments, but I think the students that I've got really will flourish in kind of that environment, feeling like that. And that's how I flourished as well, because I went to a polytech, which was a lot smaller than a university.
So you weren't so lost in the numbers.
And so, I had tutors that really, when you look back on your teachers or mentors, there were people who really cared about you and actually, gave a damn about what you were doing and where you were going. And so it's very cool to kind of be on the other side of it.
So you actually, going back to understanding the responsibility of the role, as you understand it, it's the kind of place of caring and love.
Yeah.
And you actually said it earlier really well, as you said, it's almost like catching and praising, isn't it? And seeing them, reinforcing to them that it's actually in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what vulnerabilities brings this up for you?
Oh, so many. It's like, because honestly, in my class, I have students that are older than me.
Okay.
So, I'm 24 for everyone listening. And so there's a lot of, what do I know? What do I know? I'm 24. What do I know?
Okay.
And so it's a lot of that.
So when you get questioned, do you go to insecurity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
I think because of Group Fit World and kind of drama when I was at school, it's a lot of just faking it till, and just going, kind of forcing that confidence in me.
Now is this now? And I'm digging deep here, but is this like? I imagine a lot of people in that situation become quite defensive, because they don't want to be exposed, or they do the redirect or something like that. So, is this? You need to back yourself a little bit more, or is it that you are a little bit out of your depth at times? And if so, what's the best way to deal with that?
I think both.
Okay.
And I think, I am a little bit out of my depth because I'm young and, I've literally just finished my master's maybe a year ago. And what I'm learning is actually sitting down and going, what do I need? And who can I ask for this?
Oh, nice.
And it seems like such a simple thing. Ask for help. But it actually is a skill and a muscle that you have to keep pushing because, naturally I'm not someone to go ask for help. I'm someone who will just buckle down and just figure it out, and it's been that way ever since I was young. But when things are tough and there's other people actually relying on you, you have to go, I actually need some other resources to help me through this so I can kind of bring my best self forward.
Okay.
It's not just about me. It's about all the other people who are in this circle.
So seeing the perspective as a whole and what I need to do, and actually knowing that it's going to be a better way through.
Yeah.
And are you getting there quick? You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of, I have this thing of time and bad place. Like how long do you stay in a place where you could actually, there's an easy way out?
Yeah.
Are you learning to go to help quicker?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just realizing that, I can't do it all on my own, and that if you, what's the quote? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, nice. I haven't heard that. But
yeah. So, I definitely think that seeking out help is one of the best ways to figure out your problems.
So, me, I'm going to go deep. So, So is that something you need to bring to other areas of your life? You know, because like many of us, especially hard workers, it can be the fault of hard workers, because the fault of hard workers, the way through is hard work.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so we can face vulnerability and I think, well, I just got to work harder. Is that something you identify with? And if so, what do you need to learn in that area, or what are you doing to progress in that area?
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me has actually been slowing down.
Oh, really?
What
do you mean?
Like, I guess because I've always wanted to be a really high achiever.
Okay.
And I've kind of got that in me, you know, to win, to
aim,
do the
okay.
you know, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go balls to wall.
Yep.
But lately, you know, probably within the last year or so, I've really just wanted to slow down and just go, you know, is this the right thing I want to be doing? Is this really me? Am I biting off more than I can chew? And a lot of it has actually just been saying no.
Oh, really?
You know, flexing that no muscle, going, no, I don't, because I'm such a, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll take on that.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'll have 100 projects in a week and
it's overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And you're not the best person for the people that you love most around you, you know, and that's the classic thing. You give your best to everyone else outside
and
of
then
your
the people
home.
you love get the shit version.
And then I just remember going, oh, this isn't nice. You know, I'm not the person I want to be with the people I love and who I spend so much time with. Why are these other people getting the best version of me? A lot of it has been slowing down and asking for help.
And was saying no at first hard?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And
what was the fear?
Just like, what will people think of me if I'm saying no? Am I not achieving because I'm saying no?
Okay.
It's just all around that achievement.
Yeah, what is achievement?
What is achievement? Exactly.
Yeah,
what is it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because what is success? You know what I mean? Is it outcomes? Is it, you know, or is it a life where you've got, you know, and obviously it's a mix of all, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So, because one of my problems with saying no was, what if I lose opportunity? You know, like if I say no this time, that means I lose future opportunity. And, you know, that was one of my fears is that, you know, if I don't say yes, maybe the door closes, you know, and it was a bit of a hard one as well. And so now you're finding space, you're getting better at using help. And where does it take you within yourself?
I guess it just gives me more space to figure out what Martine actually wants to do and what supposedly she would do just for other people, or what she thinks other people want her to do. Okay. And so that's taken a while to learn, and still learning it today. You know and so many times, you know, I have to check myself and be like, is this something you really want to be doing, or, you know, are you just doing it for other reasons?
So it's pretty valuable. So what you're saying there is the slowing down, you're getting help, saying no, all the rest of it's actually giving you space to assess better decisions. That's really good. Yeah, and just figuring out, you know, the path of life. And you're about to travel, aren't you, at some stage? So my partner, he is from the UK, so we are very fingers and toes crossed, hoping to get across to the UK. And also my dad is from Prague, so we're hoping to get over there and see everyone. And is this going to be for, like, is it the OE, is it, or?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, like, I've always wanted to travel ever since I was a kid. I lived in South Korea when I was
What were you doing in South Korea?
Well, my mum was an English teacher.
Oh, okay.
And so from like really young, I was 5. Wow. So from really young age.
So do you speak Korean?
I can't speak it really anymore. Okay. I can say like hello probably, but that's about it.
I wonder if you'd be able to pick it. How long were you there for?
Maybe like 4 years. Okay. 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And so ever since I was young, you know, I've been obsessed with the world and obsessed with travel and going away. And I just remember that time of my life being really fun as a kid. You know, it's like a playground.
When it comes to the fitness and helping others, what do you think are the keys? And it's proving, because I want to go here, but what do you think the keys are? In my book, I talk about, I think I talked about this the other day, the 4 types of exercises, the non-exercises, the yo-yo, the habit, and the thriver. Yeah. What do you reckon the keys are for someone who's thriving with exercise?
Oh, such a good question. Thriving. I think making it enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, is it fun for you? Does it feel like it's something you would want to do and get up for? And I really like the idea of community. You know, do you do it with someone? Are there people there that you really enjoy being around? Are you meeting new people? I think those two things are really key to thrive in that space.
Yeah,
you know, do you enjoy it, and is there other people that also enjoy it with you, and you can have an enjoyable time together? Yeah.
What about with someone who's not exercising? Like, you know, you've worked in the game for a while now, and you're PT and you're group fit. When you got that client who was a struggle, you know what I mean? Because we all love the client who loves to beat themselves up. You know, give me your money, I'll smash you. You know, you know. But then you get the one who it's a journey. You know, how do you help someone like that?
Oh, it's such a journey. And, you know, being a PT, being in group fit, and now teaching other people how to PT, you have to meet them where they're at. And I think in our heads, we're like, why can't you just do it? You know, like shaking them. Why can't you just do it and love it like I do? But you know, they're different people, and they've had this life of all these experiences, and you know, you don't even know half of the experiences. So you really just have to meet them where they're at and take the long road. You know, it'll, you know, it's a journey. It'll go up and down. It'll flow. You'll take 10 steps forward and then 20 steps back. And that's just the flow of it. But I think persevering is key. You know, if you fall off, start again. Forgive yourself, start again. Begin again. Yeah.
You're a young female. And it seems that that demographic is the one that seems to get affected most by social media. So what are you trying to teach your generation, and not just females, but just your generation in general, around what health should be?
What health should be? I think a lot of it, you know, the space that I'm in right now is just being really accepting of who you are, where you've come from, and potentially where you're going. And I think, because with health, there's so much with it, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to be the healthiest, to do the best, to be the fittest. I'm going to do these workouts that I just saw on TikTok. But to just be really accepting of where you are, and knowing that you don't have to be anyone else, you know. And I think that's where I'm at in this stage. But that's probably the one thing that I'd share more with people, is just to accept where you are and know that it's a journey. And there's beautiful things in health and fitness.
What you know, you're very self-assured, and not in a cocky way. You know, you don't come across as arrogant or anything like that. But it's just, you know yourself. Yeah. And maybe you answered that earlier, but what do you think gave that to you?
I think, you know, like, honestly, for most of my life, like, I've struggled a lot with mental health.
Oh, really? In what way?
Just battled with depression, anxiety, stress, you know, from a really young age. And
can I ask, and you can tell me piss off, but how's it represented to you?
What do you mean?
Well, like, is it an inner voice? Is it a feeling? Like how do you experience it?
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know how into it I can get, but
as much as you want. And there's no pressure.
You know, from being a kid, I remember, you know, like, I was really confident and all that, but behind closed doors I was really just low and sad. And ever since I was a kid, I used to write in journals. So I've got journals, you know, dating back to when I was in primary school. So, you know, I've always written and kind of mulled over my life.
Which is, to do it that young, it's quite interesting.
So I was writing really young, and I still keep lots of journals. But, you know, day to day now, it's the inner voice, it's the chatter, it's the can't quiet in the mind. And I've always been a very highly energetic person. So that's, you know, of course, my mind is whizzing all the time. And so slowing down has been key. You know, I meditate every morning, and if I just find that time to just, you know, everything's okay.
So meditations is a tool. What other tools do you use? Obviously exercise.
Exercise, meditation. I journal, and you know, in the past I've just gone, you know, when I was a kid I'd be like, dear diary, today I walked to school with. But nowadays it's very purposeful. It's how am I going to show up today? How do I want to feel today? You know, what am I truly grateful for right now? You know, who can I have a positive impact on today? So it's very purposeful, it's action based. So I just, so it's not like I'm blah, 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 blah.
And when you do this, the management of that side is a lot healthier.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still going through it now, and just with like fitness, it's a journey.
Yeah.
But I find these tools incredibly helpful, and day to day can be different. But if I can just maintain and be consistent, and if I fall off, again, forgiving, accepting, starting again.
Yeah. I'm a total believer in tools, eh? You know what I mean? Like I think, like if something gets you to a better place, and you can be consistent with it, and because I think it's half your journey of life management, isn't it? It's learning to manage self, in ways that are healthy for us, and it is those tools of meditation. And we're all different, some tools are different for some people, but it's like my wife, cooking, for her to get and be creative, cooking every night is a really important way for her to unwind, and it's a good mental health thing for her. Whereas for me, I think worse, but that's where we're all different, isn't it? And to me, it's always that kind of thing of when we, because health's such a big word, isn't it? That's not, it's not
it's like an
fitness.
umbrella.
It really is, isn't it? And and the one thing I've my work on at the moment is relationships, and not that I've got some brilliant relationships in my life, but relationship is the first thing I'll drop. And it's partly because our roles are so social. So my social cup gets filled from my job. So we're in front of groups of people every day. We come along, we're really social, we're life of the, we are the leader. And so I can get in the habit, and I've got a core group of friends, but I can get in the habit of just kind of not prioritizing the relationship. And it's that thing of you're going out for a party and you go, I can't bother going tonight, and so you don't go, but every time you go you're glad you went. You know what I mean? And it's that thing of relationship is the one thing I have to consciously make sure I put in my life.
Putting the effort in.
Putting the effort in, and not with just with a certain amount. And the reason is, and again I think I've got pretty good tools, but I always come more charged back from life from the right person and the right connection. Like I caught up with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and as a friend who was a really important person in my life, he just moved back to the city recently. You just walk away from it, you just go, oh, you feel your cup's filled, eh? And it's just, I suppose it's the thing is understanding your tools, putting them in, and make sure you prioritise them, eh?
You have to really pull them to the forefront.
You do, don't you?
Because they'll just take the back seat. Otherwise.
And if you don't, there's not downfall, but there's a regression, isn't there?
And then it'll hit you one day and go, oh, I actually need to prioritise my relationships or whatever it is.
Is there any fear going overseas?
No,
just excitement.
Just excitement, and it's just the life we live in. It's.
What do you get to let go of? Not that you may not need to, but but like it's a question I've been thinking about a lot in life lately. Is that what do you let go of
when you travel?
Just maybe it's, like I was thinking recently, my wife and I recently have kind of hit a next financial point. We've always saved and invested in the rest, and we're kind of at this point in when it's like, oh, actually we're kind of at a level where there's some things I can let go of. And practically and also mentally. And for a lot of people, travel is about that as well. That travel is this kind. There's the adventure aspect of it. There is the life experience of it, but there's also a little bit of this kind of I can kind of create a new me.
It's kind of like, you go into places nobody knows you, and you can kind of figure out a little bit more about yourself. But for me, like, I love feeling like a kid.
Oh, really?
I love feeling like a kid and having that adventure and that playfulness and, not knowing what's going to happen. And I really love that. And so, here in New Zealand, it's like my life is pretty structured. It's like this, I'm working in the morning, I'm training in the morning, and then I've got work, and then I've got
You're a high achiever, right? So you're playing.
Yeah. And so, but there's also a part of me that's quite chaotic and that likes a little bit of chaos. And so, I'm just, letting go of, I guess, structure and normal life, I guess. And
Well, where do you hope to be in like 5-10 years from now?
I think I always think of myself as such a dreamer. I've always been, I want to do this and I want to do that. But I think I definitely want to be in Wellington in New Zealand. That city I'm in now. I love Wellington.
Why? Not that I hate Wellington. I'm just,
yeah.
I'll dig deep.
It's just, it just feels happy to me.
Okay.
It just, like I see the sun rising over the waterfront and I just love it. And I go to my local cafe and we say hi. And so it's just those little things that just make it feel like home. And I've met some pretty cool people there, so want to be around them.
It's kind of a beautiful place where you feel a deep connection to.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think because, I left Dunedin, and so I've kind of moved into this new chapter of kind of who I am. Yeah. So it feels really cool there.
And so you say you're a dreamer. So
Yeah.
So you'll be in Wellington.
So 5-10 years, how old will I be?
Well, 30, 35. Like the where will you be in the future question is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it is that kind of, it's that thing of what's the legacy of your life.
Yeah.
You're at the beginning of it. And even if we just say career.
Yeah.
In theory, you've got 40 years of work in front of you, and it's that kind of and not that people have to have that trajectory, and life's such a random thing, but it's that kind of at the end of it, what would I want my body of work to be, or how do I want to use my time? That kind of question.
Yeah, I think I really like to connect with people and to hear people's stories. So, a lot like you in that sense.
Yeah.
You love to be talking to people and getting those stories. And, I always wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. So, writing books would be super cool. And I'd love to have a family.
Yeah.
That's really important to me.
Yeah.
I had a big family growing up. And so doing those creative things like, writing books and trying to, like when I was studying, my passion was cancer and exercise patients.
Oh, really?
So I did my master's on that. So I'd really love to continue that work, whatever form that takes, whether I do some formal education like a PhD or, whether I continue that line elsewhere in some capacity. But yeah.
So ultimately, the path of your career is to connect people in powerful ways.
Yeah.
And then to do some self creativity through it.
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of writing do you like to do? Is it like creative writing?
Yeah, I used to love that when I was young. I would write little novels. But I think now, I really want to probably share experience of what I've been through, in terms of like mental health especially, but also like on the cancer side, like I've had, multiple family members pass and, we all have.
Yeah. It's a horrible thing to say, but it is the killer of our time.
Yeah.
Cancer affects everyone.
Yeah. And, like I used to work with cancer patients every day and some of the people in my exercise program actually passed away.
Wow.
So it was like,
What's it like?
I don't want to sound like I'm desensitized to it because I'm not, but doing the study, doing the programs, and you knew that was a thing. Of course. Yeah. And we all talked about it, and even probably joked about it, because we just wanted, and it was life, and we were just doing what we had with the time we had, and
wow, it's It's funny. I'm of an age now with death's becoming a part of life.
Yeah.
Like unfortunately we just lost Joe's dad in the last period of time, and
I'm sorry.
And it was it's really sad, and some other people were losing parents, and I've touch wood, I haven't had death, like seriously, I've lost no one.
Really?
Yeah, like a couple of friends who are kind of not even friends, are kind of more in the group, kind of 2 steps back kind of thing.
Yeah.
So no family members.
That's awesome.
Yeah, still my grandparents are still alive. Well, my nanas are. I lost a granddad, but he was a step grandparent, so I wasn't that close to him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And when they will pass away, they're of an age. So, so touch wood because I haven't had death, and I will, but it's just, it is that journey of life, isn't it? Yeah.
It gives you another perspective for sure because, you just. Like we're all gonna go someday. Let's make our time really useful. And it's also funny being someone who's dealt with depression. When you're feeling so low, you're like, when is this gonna end? So there's lots of ways you can think of it.
Really?
And then I've seen it from a cancer patient's perspective, where they're practically lying on their deathbed, and they're saying, you know, of this beautiful life that they lived, and they're so grateful, and you know, so it's
perspective, eh?
Yeah, it's perspective. It just goes, oh wow, so many things don't matter.
Yeah.
You know, but the things that do matter, let's get it right.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, isn't it? The things that do matter, like here's a question.
Yeah.
When you do have downtime,
Yeah.
is there guilt? Or is it, you know, I'll let you answer.
When I have downtime, is there guilt? I think it is true. It is hard for me to switch off. You know, my partner hates it because he just wants to chill and relax.
Okay.
And I'm like, let's go, let's go. But again, that's part of the slowing down part. But I think it's more of I should be doing.
Which
There's
is guilt.
Something I should be doing.
So that's kind of guilt, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess it is masked, isn't it? My brain's trying to tell me, no, it's not. It's productivity.
Yeah.
But I guess in the real mask, it's probably guilt.
Yeah.
Mm.
And how do you manage that?
Mm-hmm.
It's something I know. Like, I know that space.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of... I'm okay if, like, I plan to watch a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Structure.
Yeah. I'm very structured.
Yeah.
But then if it's just like I've been sitting down for a couple of hours, and there's a moment where it goes to wastefulness.
Yes.
And sometimes it is wasteful, so you do
Yeah.
need to kind of give yourself a kick at the butt, although I don't really lack that motivation.
Mm.
And it's just something I've been thinking about.
I think the meditation has been helping, you know, and just...
What kind of meditation do you do?
So I have, like, I sit in silence.
Yep.
Like, so I sit upright and you know, sit in silence for that. And that's really just for me to reset, calm, find my breath. Because I guess meditation's just like the word exercise. It's like, there's
can mean
lots
many
of,
things.
yeah, there can be lots of things under there. And then I also have like an app on my phone that I use that actually my mum recommended that I use that kind of teaches you things like how to be mindful, you know, what are some techniques, what you know, can we body scan? And so it kind of gives you, there's lots of levels to it. But I have found that doing that has helped kind of relieve that sense of guilt and needing to be do instead of just be, you know, just be here. Yeah.
What helped you be someone who actually has created the routine and stuck with it, meditate? Because meditation is that thing, it's like exercise.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to say, sure, they do it for a day and they don't.
Yeah.
You know, so what made you able to be an applier? You know, where you've actually, because it seems like it's pretty part of your routine now.
Yeah.
Because everyone who's listened to the show will know I've said this a million times, but I often talk about meditations like running. Like running's a hard drug to sell because you don't really get the enjoyment till 6 weeks in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so people are like, I don't like running. And then, far, I really like running. But whereas I often say, like, RPM with spin classes are an easy drug.
Yeah.
Because you come along first time, it's so easy, you get a high, it's easy to want people to come back. And meditation's like running. Like, you've got to do it for a period of time before you understand. So what made you have to be able to apply?
I think a few things, like just that begin again, you know, and I think...
So this is the philosophy you really have, isn't it? This begin again thing.
Yeah.
Give us deeper, what does it mean?
Just... You know, if things don't go right, if it didn't happen the first time, that's not to say it's not going to happen the next time.
Okay.
And I think that's a really critical step that sometimes people miss out or skip over, is the just restart.
Yeah, okay.
You know, don't stay in that basement down there for too long.
Yeah, okay.
You know, yes, realise what's happened, and now reset again and go again.
Yeah. We could probably add some learning in there as well.
Yeah.
So why do you need to, what can you learn from that last experience?
Yeah, and that's part of it is beginning again and then saying, how can I do this differently now? Because that obviously didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, how can I make
But
that
unfortunately,
better?
what a lot of people do is they go, I failed, I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
So they self-identify, put a stamp on that I'm a bad. It's the identity is the problem, not the strategy.
Yes.
You know, whereas if you can go, begin again, but where was my strategy wrong? You know, not what was wrong with me. You know, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now it's, I mean, I guess you have to look back at your track record, but I just stuck with it, you know, even if it wasn't like, you know, now I'm probably meditating for 20 minutes.
Nice.
But back, you know, when I was starting, it would have been a minute. Yeah. Probably less. Yeah. You know, you want to make the task as simple as possible. You don't want to go out the gate going, I'm going for a 20k run.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're breaking it down to like the most minuscule, like even just downloading the app, you know, is that the most base task that you can do that day. Great, tick that off.
Yeah,
awesome.
And be allowed that to be success.
Yeah. And recognizing that that's a huge step in your day.
Yeah.
And to give yourself like a bit of a pat on the back, like good job, Bevy, that was awesome. Yeah.
And what's the value? So obviously it allows you to calm down. What's the value of it? Why is it so good for your life?
Oh, I think it just, like personally, I just think it just resets and it just breaks apart so many attachments to things, you know, whether that's with people or jobs or tasks to do. It just kind of breaks up that wall. So it's like, I'm not the task.
Okay.
You know, if
so it creates a disconnect.
Yeah, it just kind of detaches you a bit and goes and you go, oh, I'm back here now. I'm back with myself.
Yeah.
I'm not actually the job.
Yeah.
You know, me and the job are separate.
It's interesting. I'm reading a really good book right now, which I'm sure I'll probably talk about on the podcast soon. It's called Chatter. Like everyone should read this book. And it's Chatter. It's something. It's around. I can't remember what the subtitle is, but something like, you know, how to deal with the voice in your head. Yeah. And it's by a guy who's basically the world leader in psychology in this area. And he talks about, it's a brilliant book. So he talks about ruminating. So ruminating is when we're stressed or overwhelmed or, you know, and a good way I always think about rumination is that we have a thought that's working against us and we push rewind and play. And each time we push rewind and play, it kind of grows. You know, it becomes a bigger balloon, if you know what I mean. And we kind of get trapped in this thought, and there's kind of no way out. And the book's really fascinating because he talks about how we communicate with ourselves and how we get out of that. But what he talks about is that, so you have rumination, and he talks about immersive rumination. So immersive is when we're very much just stuck in that place. Yeah. And what gets us away from that is what he calls distance. So if we can create distance from immersive rumination, then we tend to get out of it much better. And now he talks about inner voice techniques you use to overcome that place. But, you know, what you're talking about there is kind of the same thing. Yeah. You know, that what you do is you might be in a place of rumination, you go into your meditation, and then suddenly there's a distance between... And then it gives you the space to be able to navigate moving forward in a better way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so true because, you know, part of sometimes meditating is almost like objectively looking at the thought. Like it's not, I'm not the thought.
Well, okay, so this is what's really fascinating about it, because he talks about, and this is what's really interesting about this book, is that they talk about when we're in immersive rumination, we very much use I. So it's very much, we're talking about me. Yeah. You know, this is really hard. I'm really struggling with this. It's unfair on me. Mm-hmm. And so some of their techniques, one of the techniques he really recommends is talking to yourself in third person. Yeah. So literally, Bevan's struggling right now because he's replaying his thought and he's not trusting himself in this situation. And what you're doing there is, so one of the things I'll have rumination around is sometimes insecurity in business. You know, as a small business owner, sometimes you can create a really unrealistic picture that the world's going to end. And it might be just the competition does something that looks good. And so, you know, oh my God, you know, my world's ending. Yeah. And it's totally irrational. But you go to that place and you might be ruminating. So I might say, Bevan is repeating a thought here because he's feeling vulnerable about his business right now. Really, all he needs to focus on is putting some trust into his situation and looking at the evidence. And what that does is it creates distance. Yes. Distance between what you're going toward. And, you know, and it's kind of what you're saying with your meditation, isn't it? But that third, you know, that third person, or as you said, you're stepping away from the thought and looking at it from a different angle. Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. Because, it just removes yourself from it. Yeah. You know, because it's that identity thing as well. You know, you think you are the thing, but you're not. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've even been using it in like exercise. So like I have a hard session I do each week, and I've been practicing it when I use third person in that now. You know, okay, Bevan's getting on the bike. Okay, you know, like it really does. Yeah. And they talk in this book. They talk about how you listen to some sports stars, and they'll talk about key moments, and they use like LeBron James to say, okay, well, what LeBron he did here was. And even sports style, but just that idea of what helps you create. And that's why exercise is often such an important thing, because what exercise does is it's kind of like meditation, isn't it? You know, you create some distance in your day. Yeah. And then after the fact, you can have a better perspective. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And, you know, like for exercise for me now is just so habitual. Yeah.
It's so, and like you, similar. You know, it's so habitual. You know, it's like just it's a given. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah.
One thing that, do you still have the scary sessions?
Yes, because I'm someone who gets bored quite easily.
Yep.
So I definitely need something that's challenging and that I don't know much about. So lately I've been running. So you're the running expert here, so this is gonna be funny.
You're turning to Forrest Gump.
I enjoy running and I enjoy the challenge on my own.
Yep.
I like being on my own and going, oh, I did that. And, you know, you go through so much anguish when you're running. And then when you stop, you go, oh, okay, cool. But so, yeah, I've been running and that's been challenging. And I've also been doing a bit of CrossFit and I don't know anything about CrossFit.
Yeah.
You know, I did sports growing up, but I didn't do any gymnastics
or lifting or stuff.
Lifting, and I've never done any lifting, so a lot of that is super new. So it's very cool building new skill sets. Yeah.
And what do you do to prepare yourself for those moments? How do you win the scary moment?
Just keeping. I mean, I've always been such an open person, but just that learner, you know, that white belt kind of mentality. You know, I don't know everything, and I'm going to learn something. And you know, there's been times where I've walked out going, I hated that session. You know, I'm swearing and I'm going, you know, F this, I'm quitting tomorrow and I'm gonna email my cancel my membership. But you know, you get past those moments because this is life. You know, life is never going to be just flat line. There's always going to be potholes and challenges. So.
Last question. Just what would you say to someone who isn't exercising right now? And just to encourage them to get into it, what would you say?
I think just find what works for you and know that you're not alone. There's so many people that are there with you, and to find those people and to find the people that lift you up and that, you know, help you become better, I think is, you know, you're always the sum of the 5 people around you, right? And so find those key people, you know, keep trying, start again. And like you said earlier, it's a journey, you know, so things are going to be up, things are going to be down. But that's the joy of it, you know. How boring would life be if it was like always roses? You know, we wouldn't know the time is roses because we didn't know anything else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your honesty and your sharing. People do want to follow you. Where would they go?
I'm terrible on Instagram. I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can. But yeah, Martine Matapo on Instagram, and you'll probably see me on some Les Mills stuff too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Bevan.
Awesome, mate. Rightio, so there is my interview with Martine. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. Again, as I was saying before we started the interview, it's just one of those interviews. I love speaking to young people who are just doing really great things and having a positive impact on the world. And you know, she's only 24 and she's doing some pretty impressive stuff. So really cool to have a chat to her. And again, it's just those insights that come. You know, often when you hear an interview, you just self-reflect in ways where you get some really good insights. And yeah, it was really cool. And actually what was really cool after the interview, her and Mandy, who's been on the show a while ago. Mandy is another fitness professional I know quite well. And we went out for dinner and we just kept going deep and meaningful. So that's how we roll. One thing I do want to say is the book is coming out. It looks like the date's going to be about June. So we've been talking to the publisher. The issue we have in today's world is that because of COVID, printing is taking a lot longer than what we hoped. We were kind of hoping it would be coming out in March, but now it looks like June will be the date when it comes out. We've confirmed the cover. I'm really happy with the cover, actually. Cover design is really hard, and it took us a long time, you know, with myself, because I kind of understand design. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at design, but I understand design. Myself and the graphic designer who's doing the cover, we're back and forth, and I think we think we've got it right. So that's kind of exciting. So again, I think I said on the last episode, I need you to help me push it when it comes out, and you'll hear about that closer to time. But I'm pretty excited. I'm going to start recording the audiobook. I wasn't going to record the audiobook. I was going to pay somebody to do the audiobook. And a lady I know called Paula, who I talk about actually, with Martine today, she said, I really like it when the author reads the audiobook. And I'm not a great reader out loud. It's a skill I've got a lot better at in my life. Like I couldn't even do it at all when I was a kid. But I do tend to make, just little mistakes. And when I'm reading out to people, it's not so bad. But when you're doing audiobook, you've got to be 100% accurate. So I found on Fiverr, there was a guy who said, I can edit audiobooks. And I said, look, mate, I make a few mistakes. And so he said, we'll do a sample and we'll see. And I did a sample and I probably made, probably 20% of the time I was making mistakes. Sent it back to me. It made me sound like I made no mistakes at all. So I was like, this guy rocks. So I am going to record the audiobook. It'll be a bit of a journey for me. The book's probably, as an audiobook, will probably be about 6 to 7 hours long. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of, I imagine it'll probably take me about 30 hours, 40 hours to record. So, but hey, so it's another little kind of experience for me to go through in this whole second book journey. So anyway, I look forward to the book. And again, the book's called I Will Make You Passionate About Exercise. I'm really excited about it. Anyway, if you do want to support the show, become a patron, spread the word about the show, give some feedback, give a review somewhere, and yeah, just enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful couple of weeks. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for another Bevan episode. And as always, keep being you.